All right, welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. I have got a ton to cover on this episode, and honestly, this wasn't a subject I was planning to cover, but after looking at the results and my personal connection to the Bachman family and some interesting stories I could potentially share, I felt like I just had to say something. So if you're on my newsletter or Facebook, you saw that I posted a lot of information yesterday, and honestly, it was really well received. I was surprised how many comments I received and thumbs up. I think my thumbs up's already up to like 500 or so, and I've got so many comments from all of you that seem to really enjoy what I covered. So I'm going to cover that in this episode, go through kind of what I covered in the email blast with a little bit more information, and then I will, at the end of this podcast, talk about my personal connection with the Bachmanns and some behind the scenes stuff that happened. Not all, because I can't share everything, but just be an interesting insight I think that you would enjoy, a little bit behind the scenes. So I will have to say all the pictures in this podcast are from Meekum's website. They had some wonderful photography. Meekum did a fantastic job in presenting this collection and achieving incredible results. So hats off to them. They just did a wonderful job. Now, before we get started, I do want to welcome a couple new sponsors. You probably have seen Discovered once already in this podcast. If you want to go on a really cool muscle car tour, be sure to check that out. It's in my link to description to this podcast. And then also I'd like to welcome NCM Insurance. They're brand new. This episode is their first time, so they will be with us for the long haul. And I have a couple more sponsors popping up here in the next few weeks, mostly related to the book launch, which is really cool. And again, the Enthusiast Guide to Collector Cars is coming out around May 1st. Some of you have asked me, where are your books? Well, just remember, I said it's launching in the spring, so I'll get those to you as quickly as I can. And if you are interested in sponsorship opportunities, either with the podcast or a full-page ad in the book, please shoot me a note, greg@thecollectorcarpodcast.com. Those are filling up very quickly. So here we go. First to my sponsors, and then we'll cover a bunch of yellow Ferraris, as well as a very, very special white one that also sold. If you own a collector car, you already know it deserves more than a standard insurance policy. NCM Insurance specializes in agreed value coverage designed specifically for classic, collector, and enthusiast vehicles. From weekend drivers to serious collectors, they understand how these cars are used, stored, and protected. To learn more about protecting your collector car the right way, visit ncminsurance.com. Coverage built for the cars you care about. Imagine a journey so rare it only happened once. That's the spirit behind Once. Exclusive, one-time only adventures that will never be repeated. Our next experience, American Muscle Legends, takes you trackside with the most iconic cars in history, complemented by luxury accommodations and behind-the-scenes access you simply can't buy. Spots are limited. When it's gone, it's gone. You can learn more at discoveronce.com/muscle. Okay, you'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to do all this fairly quickly after the sale, so I have a lot of information to cover here. And, it might seem rambling at times, but I swear I'm trying to keep on track. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cover some of the big sales with Meekum that happened this weekend. It was just absolutely incredible, outstanding. Part of me wishes I was there, and then when you kind of hear a little bit of the backstory, part of me is so glad I wasn't there. So you'll have to stay till the end of this podcast to hear why. But let's talk about the results first. First off, this is pretty much, you hear this a lot, once in a lifetime kind of collection, but this one truly is. And I say that because this wasn't a collection that could have just been bought off the shelf at any auction. This is one that was curated over many, many years. And I'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. You're looking at a yellow Enzo right here. That was the big sale of the weekend for the Bachmanns. So 2003 Enzo Ferrari. Yeah, this thing went nuts. And let me just say, from a numbers perspective, 33 of the 48 lots sold were world record prices. Now, you see a lot of that advertised as 46 Ferraris. That is correct. I did also include the 2 Alfa Romeos because those were part of the Bachmann sale. Those were really cool. Neither one of those actually broke a record, which was a little bit surprising to me considering the rarity of the color and the mileage. But this was the top seller, this 2003 Ferrari Enzo. All the numbers I'm quoting are without the buyer's premium, so minus 10%. And why do I do that? Because this is the money that went into the pockets of the Bachmanns, in this case, the Bachman Foundation. And so this one hammered for $16,250,000. The previous record price was just over $6 million. So you're talking over $10 million more for this example. Now, it was special. It was low mileage. It was custom ordered by Phil Bachman when new. So that was very, very cool. The other thing, I did not call this out in my podcast, or I'm sorry, in my newsletter, and I wish I had. Bad on me for missing this, but all the proceeds to this sale go to the Phil and Martha Bachman Foundation. So this is another Enzo that sold at Mecum after the sale, not a part of the Bachman collection, but I just wanted it as a price point. It sold for around $11 million, but it is the only one in this really cool orange color. So color really is a factor when it comes to Enzos. I just wonder how much that $16 million sale made someone maybe go a couple more $1 million higher on this incredible orange one. It is really cool to see them in a color that is not red. Really looks good in orange. Maybe that's because I have my poppy red Mustang in the garage. All right, the second highest seller was this 1995 F50. Now, as you know, these have been going through the roof for a long time. Sold for $11.1 million. The previous record without buyer's fee was $9,245,000. Congratulations to Zach for consigning that one. That record did not last long. That was a yellow one that sold in Monterey this year, and that record was just broken by this car. So again, number 2 in the Bachmann sale. Number 3 was this Ferrari Aperta. Now this one hammered for $10 million, and this one actually looks really stunning in these pictures. The previous record was $6.7 million. And just absolutely stunning. Apertas, it seems like almost any Aperta is just going through the roof right now. So if you have one of those, hang on to it because there seems to be no end at sight at this time. All right, number 4 is this 288 GTO. Not surprising at all. We've seen these going through the roof recently. This is, again, one that was bought new, extremely low mileage, $7.75 million, eclipsing the record by over $3 million, which is absolutely insane. But again, find another for sure. This is just a stunning example. All right, the last of the top 5 would be another modern supercar, the Ferrari, hammered for $6.1 million. Previous record was around 5.2. So not as big of an increase versus the record, but still a record nonetheless, and the top 5 for the Bachmann sale. All right, now here's the bad news, and I've had a little bit of tongue-in-cheek on this in my newsletter, talking about color specs. And so I did visit this collection actually before I became car specialist with Sotheby's. And it was, I'll go into it more here in a minute, but it was back when I was working for a food company and just trying to become a Ferrari judge. And I remember the first time I saw this GTO, 599 GTO, it just hurt my eyeballs. We're talking yellow with blue accents. I was just like, what is going on here? Just not in my realm of taste whatsoever, this color combination. So in my newsletter, I mentioned, you know what, this is probably going to have a lot of people looking at these crazy colors that maybe don't make sense, but they see it as a potential investment. And the thing that's different about this entire argument is that Phil Bachman spec'd these out before people were doing crazy colors. And he did it because this was to his particular taste. And so if you're just trying to follow a trend, I don't think it's going to be fare well from an investment perspective. Now, the other one that really blew my mind was this Aperta, yellow with green stripes and a silver hardtop roof. And then when you look at the interior, man, it gave me a headache when I saw this thing. So super, super cool. I guess, you know what, the people that, it really surprised me because there was a lot of conversations about these selling under market value because who would want these colors? But then they blew it out of the water, which is, I'll get to the numbers here in a second, but which is really amazing. And now these will forever be known as the Bachman Ferraris. And when you see one of these at a show, there's no doubt what you're looking at. It is a true one of one in some crazy colors. So you'll never forget them. I'm trying to bounce through the pictures here real quick so that I can find the interior picture. I did have it in my newsletter. There it is. Oh my goodness. So you're talking about green interior with yellow highlights, yellow dash, green and yellow steering wheel, green and yellow seats. Oh, just not to my taste whatsoever, but you'll never forget this car if you own it or if you see it. That is for sure. So one of the interesting parts is that of the top 10 cars, 4 of them had bold color choices. Now, the 2 I just mentioned, the GTO sold for $3.6 million. That was 43% above the previous record. The SA Aperta sold for $4.5, 67% above the previous record. And these next 2, which aren't as bad. So these are 2 Scuderias. We've got the 16M Spider, sold for $1.8 million. That's almost 80% above the previous record. Now, if you're looking with me online, I'm a Florida State fan. Went to Florida State. This is pretty much garnet and gold. So it looks yellow and garnet, basically. Looks real nice. If you're looking at it right now, you'll see there's the Italian flag on the nose. Phil Bachman had that custom airbrushed on at the factory. So he had some very interesting taste. So very rare, very cool car. This one, the spec looks pretty good to me. I would be proud to own this. It's one I would probably go after if I had the means to do so, which I do not. Now, the second car went up very high as well. Now, these are kind of matching pairs. So part of me wonders if the person who bought the first car got into a bidding war with someone else because they wanted the second car to go together. Don't know if that's true or not. I'm sure that will come out at some point, especially as you go to Ferrari shows, and hopefully you see these 2 show up next to each other. But very rare cars, Scuderias, Apertas, all these cars are on a tear right now. So very, very cool. All right, so my concern with this is that people are going to tailor-made some really crazy, weird colors. Hopefully that's not the case, but who knows? Maybe it will be. Now, there were some other really ugly colors in my book. This is one of them, the 612. It again sold for a world record price. This is an interesting car. I think they call it the Santa Senso or something like that. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not getting that correct. But they only made 60 of these cars to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Ferrari, so they're very rare and sought after just from that fact. And then you take in the fact that this was probably ordered brand new by Phil Bachman in interesting colors, almost like a, I don't know, a yellow tan with a pewter underneath. It just doesn't look that great, honestly. But it sold for a world record price. Another one that was very questionable, it might not look that bad on the picture I'm showing you right now, but this 360, I think it's a Stradale. It has red headlight housings. So when you turn the lights on, when it came across the block, I was like, oh my gosh, that thing looks weird. Bright red rear end as well around the exhaust tips. Very loud, not to my taste. But again, custom made by the Bachmanns. One of one. You'll know it when you see it for sure. All right, something else that was surprising, and I have to apologize to you, those of you who own a Superamerica. My numbers were not quite correct in my email. I compared an F1 to a manual, so shame on me. So the 95.7% below a record price is not totally accurate. It is still double digits below a record price for an F1, but not nearly as extreme. This particular one is yellow with dark blue racing stripes, and it has a very loud dark blue interior. And I mentioned in my newsletter that these have been getting soft lately, mostly because of the roof, believe it or not. It's called Revochromic. And, you know, when you look at the Superamericas, they're kind of weird to begin with because of that roof, the way it curves, the way it operates. And there's issues with these roofs. I did put on my email that it costs $100,000 to replace one of these, which is accurate because I know that that had happened in the past with one of my fellow car specialists advising a client before a sale, and that's what the price was. But someone had responded that they're not that expensive. I guess if you can repair the one you have, it's not. But if you need to replace it in its entirety, it is $100,000. So kind of crazy. All right, now let's move on to the other cars that I saw as having a losing result, which was very interesting. And it relates to, I believe, generational shift going on right now. The first one, this car was an absolute steal. The 16M. This has been an iconic car forever, very early. I think this is a 1951 car. These were trading upwards of $10 million, not just but 10 years ago or so. And this one traded under $2 million. And last time one sold for around 3.5. So this one was an absolute steal. But again, the prices are cratering on 50s Ferraris right now. This was kind of the deal of the century, but think about it. How many new Ferrari owners, when you see Ferraris on these YouTube channels and you see these garages of these incredible exotics, how often do you see an old Ferrari in there? And it's pretty much never, which is what is driving down the prices of the old Ferraris. The new buyers are not interested in the old stuff, with one exception, which I will get to here shortly. The other car that caught my eye as being a deal was this one, 275 GTB 4-cam alloyed. So one of, I believe, 26 cars ever made. Now, this car is the reason I met the Bachmanns to begin with. This car was absolutely stunning, absolutely perfect, super rare. These have sold for as high as, I think, $10 million. Yeah, this hammer price was 85% below the record price, and this one was around $5.5 million, I believe. So yeah, stunning, gorgeous car, absolutely an incredible car, but it is declining, unfortunately. Or fortunately, if you want to buy one of these. The other thing I found interesting of note were the Dinos. So there was a Chairs and Flares Dino that sold 20% below the record price. And then this one, which is like a dark metallic brown, which I absolutely love, sold 47% below the record price. Now, some of you might be wondering, why am I comparing this to the record price and not to the median price? Well, because I knew this was a record-breaking sale, and I knew there would be a lot of records broken. It felt like that if the market was strong on these, they too would have broken records. Now, I will say that these cars are in absolute perfect shape. I'll throw a picture in here. When I visited the collection, I took a picture of this car, and there was a yellow hand towel where the door closes, so there would not be any scrapes. Like, they were so color coordinated, it was crazy. Even their towels that they used to clean the cars, whether they were yellow or not, the towels were yellow. I absolutely love this particular car. All right, the other ones were the Daytona. We have a Daytona here that actually sold for less than what the Testarossa sold for. So that was really, really shocking. This one was very soft as well. This one was 92.5% below a record price. Now, I will say there was another Daytona, super low mile yellow one, that did hit, I think, $1 million or $1.1 million. So a little bit of a mixed bag on the Daytonas. I'm not quite sure why this one sold so soft. It was very interesting to watch it cross the block because it was fairly early in the sale that it sold softly. Now, there was a third Daytona that was more of a restoration project that sold for almost as much as this car, which is interesting to see that happen as well. Now, one thing I do want to say is a quick call out for those of you who think that because these cars sold so strongly, you as a Ferrari owner is going to reap the benefits from this. I think a little bit will happen. There will be an increase in the marketplace because of these results, but I would not expect that. So in my email, I put why your Ferrari will be worth less. And I am just going to read this off because I thought it turned out pretty good. The auction was an almost unrepeatable event, and the prices reflected that. Phil Bachmann was ordering Ferraris this way before it was fashionable. He specified cars when most buyers played it safe. He commissioned custom luggage before Ferrari offered it. He preserved the cars obsessively, rarely drove them beyond service mileage, and chased the rare, the unusual, and the polarizing long before the market rewarded that behavior. That combination, timing, intent, discipline, and scale cannot be replicated overnight. These results will influence the broader Ferrari market, but not in the way many people hope. Most Ferraris do not have this story, this cohesion, or this provenance. Without those ingredients, the headline numbers fade quickly. Yeah, so you know what? It is what it is. It is an incredible collection, and I think it will translate to some respect just because it's getting so much press. But, you know, I don't think it will be apples for apples. The first person that asked me to quote their Enzo at $16 million, I think I'll lose my mind. All right, this is another cool car, this 360 that I just thought was an incredible color combination. I don't have the results offhand, but it went well over $1 million, which is another world record price. Dark green with tan interior, apparently the only one built this way. Yeah, so exclusivity definitely plays a part in these results. All right, before I move on to the big white GTO, I just wanted to kind of review some of these other cars I might not have touched base on. I mean, we got a 308 GTS that sold for $300,000 all in. 328 GTB that sold for almost $600,000 all in. Just really crazy prices here. A 328 GTS, $495,000. That's with buyer premium. I didn't have a chance to mention the two F40s. This includes buyer premium because it's on Mecum's website. $5.8 million for one of them. Yeah, there's the Daytona that was somewhat of a restoration project. All in $473,000. It was just nuts. There's a 308 GTB for 220. That's probably the bargain of the whole deal. Yeah, what else we got here? Yeah, there's the Chairs and Flares Dino. Again, 512 BBI sold for 687 all in. So, yeah, just incredible sale. Oh, this was a bright spot. This Lusso sold for $3.3 million. That was a very nice result considering it's a car from the 1960s. So that kind of bucked the trend of generational shift. There's the other Ferrari Daytona that sold for 1.2 all in. FXX, couldn't even talk about that, $6.3 million. That's the only one that's in yellow. All right, so that is about it that I wanted to cover as far as the Bachmann sale. Now, the other thing I wanted to cover was this incredible car, the GTO. So this is the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO. Now, there's a lot of interesting stuff around this car. I had heard rumors that it was a guaranteed sale at $40 million. And then I just happened to be in the collection of the owner of this car, and he was not there. But talking to people in the know said, no, that wasn't actually correct. There wasn't a guaranteed number on this car. And if you read the forums, you had people saying it's going to sell for 70 million, it's going to sell for 90 million. Some of the folks I have a lot of respect for were saying 70 million. And I learned from the 330 LM 250 GTO sale a couple years ago that this market is getting soft like everything else. And so when I was thinking about this car, I actually had a chance to see it in person at the Muscle Car and Corvette National sale. I pegged it around $40 million. Now, why would I do that? Well, three reasons. First off, it is the only white car, but I don't think it looks that great in white. Yes, that's a one-of-one color, but I don't know. It just loses some magic not being red. And then the other thing that affected its price, in my mind, is that it's a right-hand drive car. Now, there are, I believe, 6 other right-hand drive GTOs, so probably not as big of a factor, but being sold in the U.S., I think it was a factor. And then third, it did not have its original engine. Now, it's my understanding it had a Ferrari-built Classic A certified correct engine, but not the original engine. Now, an interesting fact is that this was offered for sale for about 2 years over in England by a well-known broker. And when I was at the 330 LM 250 GTO sale in New York, I saw him in the audience, and I went up to him. I said, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I just want to see what's happening with the GTO market, not knowing he was about to consign this car and have it for sale literally like 2 weeks later. So after that sale, he was like, congratulations, that's an incredible price you got for the car. Great job, well done, RM Sotheby's. And then literally a week or 2 weeks later, I saw that he had this white car for sale in England. And he advertised it for about 2 years. And I had heard the number was really big, like 70 million, 80 million. And when you go out there a little too strong, you're probably, alienating quite a few of potential buyers, which may not have helped. And then how did this car end up at Mecum? That's a great question. And it's my understanding that it was just an offhand conversation with another broker who had a relationship with Dana and said, hey, I can make something happen here, and was able to get it. So I was very surprised that it sold for $35 million when the reserve came off. Not quite sure of what happened behind the scenes. I know that David Lee, the watch owner who has the condiment collection, the red modern Ferraris and the yellow modern Ferraris out in California. He's been on Jay Leno's Garage many times. He is the new owner of this car. He put it out there on social media very quickly. I just wonder if he's going to paint it red or yellow or a combination of them both. My gut is he's going to keep it exactly as it is. So it's really cool to see. He's a true passionate owner. I think he will be the first guy, or not the first, but one of the ones I know publicly that have the big 5 Ferraris and the GTO, which is really cool to see. So I'm curious to see what happens and how he shares it. And if it shows up on Jay Leno's Garage, I'm sure it will, which will be really cool to see. So I'm very happy that a younger enthusiast such as David Lee had bought this car. And the reason I said I don't know what happened in the background, I'm like, well, Mecum just made like $50 million on the Bachman sale, so maybe they covered some of the difference and wrote it off as marketing expense. I do not know because I am not in that world. So, all right, so that's it for the coverage. Now, I think I will give a little bit of insight into my relationship with the Bachmanns. I met Martha Bachman, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, and she was super, super sweet. And the way I met her was because I wanted to judge Ferraris at Cavallino. And judging Ferraris is interesting because when you talk to the head judge, he'll say, well, you need to become an expert in something. And that's why a lot of the judges you see might be restoration experts or painters or whatever, because they work on the cars every day. And so in this scenario, he was basically like, pick a Ferrari you like and become an expert. So I thought about it, and I really like these 275 GTBs. And so I decided that's going to be my car. So I bought all sorts of books that are over here in my thing. And, I put together this manual kind of showing all the differences, all the different hoses and the fuel pumps and all this kind of stuff. And I had heard about the Bachman collection, but I had never had a chance to see it. And so I had a friend, Michael Kelly. He's in the Ferrari Club. Most of you know him. Super nice guy, and he had a good relationship with them. And I said, hey, I know they have a 275 GTB. Is it possible I can visit the collection? And so he put me in touch with Martha, and she was super sweet. And they have a lot going on. Phil had a stroke, 12 years earlier or so, confined to a wheelchair, all there mentally, but couldn't speak and was confined to a wheelchair, round the clock care. And so I understood it. So finally, my wife and I were able to visit the collection. And she said, I'm not going to uncover all the cars for you, but I'll let you see the 275 GTB. So I'm like, oh, that's great. That's all I want to see. Can I take pictures of that car? She's like, yes, by all means, take all the pictures you want. And so we arrived there. And at the time, it was in a nondescript building next to a dealership they used to own. It's my understanding they still own the building and the land, but they rented it out to the dealer. And this was a nondescript building to the side. And you walk inside, and it was just unbelievable because all of this custom luggage was stacked on the walls. You had all these incredible cars. And what was amazing is that they had uncovered most of the cars, which was really, really cool. There was one room of cars that did not uncover, but that was the 308s and the 328s. They uncovered the Enzo, the 288, the F50, the F40, the FXX, the 288 GTO, the crazy colored cars. And it was just unbelievable to see. And so I had the opportunity to take as many reference pictures as I wanted, and I'll put some up on the screen here, as many reference pictures I wanted of the 275 GTB. And I was able to take one or two other pictures, not a lot, but one or two other pictures, including that really cool little Dino. And so fast forward, I don't know, a year or so later, when I'm with RM Sotheby's, and I don't know if they have a relationship with an auction house or not, but we just continued the conversation, continue building that relationship. And long story short, Martha and I became friends, and then she unexpectedly passed away, somewhat unexpectedly, and went to her funeral. And I became friends with the son, PB, super nice guy, super sweet guy. We became friends, had dinner at their house. He took me out in his Lotus, really great guy. And then his dad passed away, which again was unfortunate, but man, Phil, he just kept on going. I think he was 87 or 88 years old, and he just kept on going. He passed away. Anyways, long story short, I'm not a guy to approach someone about a collection at a time like that. And fairly soon afterwards, I had heard that the cars were going to be sold. And long story short, it was a situation, I can't go into it because it's not direct. It's not information that is direct to me. It's more hearsay through someone who should know and would know. But long story short, all the auction companies made pitches, except RM was somehow locked out of that process. I still don't quite understand why. And kudos to Mecum. They came in with the biggest bat, took the biggest swing, and knocked it out of the park. And so they got the collection, and they really did an incredible job consigning it to one of the big auctions in the country. And looked like they did a wonderful job displaying it on site. I would have liked to have been there, but it was just one of those things. Based on the relationship and the way Martha got me started in the entire Ferrari world, I just felt like, you know what, I think I'll just watch it from afar more than anything else. And it was a lot of fun. And like I said, I wasn't planning to do an email blast about this. I wasn't planning to do a podcast about this. but the results were so incredibly shocking and so relevant to what's happening coming up. I felt like I should probably say something about it. Two additional things I wanted to mention before we move on to the RM Sotheby's, my projections for the RM Sotheby's Scottsdale sale here in a moment. When I was underneath the car, the 275, taking reference pictures, Phil was there in his wheelchair, and he was laughing his head off with a huge smile on his face because he was so thrilled someone was taking that time to go underneath his cars and check them out so closely. Picture this. I mean, he was a Ferrari judge for many years, and maybe he hadn't been on the Ferrari field for 10 years or so. I don't know, since his stroke. And to have someone in there and show the kind of love and respect for his cars as if it was on a judging field, I could see why he got excited about that. So that was really funny, him laughing his head off while I was crawling underneath his car with a flashlight. The other thing is as a thank you for the visit, I like to do some drawing. So I did a pen and ink drawing of his FXX. And I believe it was the Shanghai racetrack, and it's just a black and white pen and ink drawing. The Shanghai racetrack, because that's where he had the most success with that particular car. And I had it framed and I sent it. And Martha, I wish I still had it. Martha sent me a picture of him with a big smile on his face, holding that picture up as a thank you. And I've been watching the Mecum On Time, their online auction of the Bachman stuff, hoping I would see my artwork there, because I just think it would be hilarious if Mecum sold a piece of artwork by me. Now, they probably saw it and said, this is some rookie amateur, and they just chunked it. Hopefully not, but that's probably what happened, because I have not seen it online anywhere. So if I do see that pop up for sale, I'll be sure to let you know. I just think that would be hilarious. Now, something else I wanted to do, and I won't be able to do it that much just because I haven't had time to prep, but I did pick 4 cars. I did want to look at the offerings at RM Sotheby's Scottsdale sale. This comes out on Thursday. The sale's tomorrow, Friday. So if you're listening to this on Thursday or Friday, be sure to check it out. But I'm curious to see what the Bachman results, how it affects the Sotheby's sale. So here's the 4 cars I'll pull out here. One is the F50. Estimate $7 to $9 million. So that'll be really interesting to see if it exceeds the high estimate. One would think it would fairly easily, but we will see. The second one is the 16M Scuderia Spider, $750,000 to $900,000, and then we have an Enzo, $5 to $6 million, and then the last one's going to be really interesting. It's like a prototype car, 2012 Ferrari LaFerrari Prototype P2. Estimate available on request. So that will be really interesting. I will be sure to mention that in next week's podcast so we can kind of see how they did. So I apologize. A lot to take in here. Just kind of gave it to you all at once. But as always, I appreciate you watching, listening, reading. And as always, I will talk to all of you next week.